good stuff you need to know.
Right here on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide
At thezone1059.com.
And away we go. Here we go. It is a Reaction Monday. What are we reacting to? Oh my, how are you feeling today? Hey, let me ask you this first and foremost. If you're a baseball fan, how you feeling about things today, huh? Huh? You still in the mood for baseball today, huh? Yeah, I am. I'm always in the mood for a little baseball. In fact, I would like to play some baseball. Yeah. See, like what my arm would feel like after trying to throw a guy out, or trying to throw a fastball on the outside corner. And I'd like to take a few cuts in the cage and maybe see if I can hit some live pitching. But that might be a case of your brain thinking things that your body just no longer capable of. That might be what that is. So I guess the next best thing is following baseball, and I followed it a little bit. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you, though. I didn't watch nearly as much baseball as I did golf this weekend. And I think there are a lot of people that are like me. And I was totally locked into the Masters coverage this weekend. The only time that I wasn't really locked into Masters coverage this weekend was when I was either at church or I was on the driving range hitting golf balls myself. Yes, sir. Yeah, so, that's the great thing about golf, though. So you can't just up and have a baseball game at 45, 46, 47 years old. But you can play golf and pretend. And pretend that you could hit a shot every now and then like Scottie Scheffler, the greatest player in golf at the moment. All right, so as we start off here on this Reaction Monday, I'm going to let you hear what Scottie Scheffler said. I think the highlight of the weekend is what Scottie Scheffler said after winning the Masters. He's actually sitting there in the media room with his green jacket on. All right, so that's coming up. More importantly, your comments, your opinions, and otherwise. Get them in. You can be a part of the show, and I hope you will be today in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance. That's what the Wyatts have. No apostrophe there. Plural. The Wyatts, we got it all covered. Home, auto, life with Farm Bureau Insurance. You should too. Farm Bureau Insurance, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau all across the great state of Mississippi. All right, so text me, call me, or comment. Matter of fact, the first comment I got on the live stream is over on X, and my man Prince, the Prince of Neshoba County. Then he says, who would win a Masters All-Star golf match? And then baseball, football, basketball players. Like, I don't know. What do you think, Philip? I don't entirely understand the question, but I'm willing to entertain it. All right. So just like that, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Danny's on YouTube, he dropped a comment here that said, Hail State from Ringgold, Georgia. Did you enjoy the Masters? Man, did I ever more enjoy it. There is nothing like it in sports. It's number one. And man, if you were watching when he came up 18th green yesterday, he's going to win. He's up by 4, and he's about to be a 2-time winner. The third or fourth youngest to ever win 2 green jackets. He's just getting started. The others are people like Tiger Woods. And CBS, man, CBS's coverage, and I guess it's in conjunction with ESPN earlier in the week, but the truth is ESPN's coverage, the way it looks aesthetically, how they script it, the voices that are on it, ESPN's coverage, it's okay, it's good, it's the Masters. What CBS does is incredible. It is like watching a movie, but they're producing it live. From the way the video looks, I mean, and it doesn't hurt that they're at golden hour on a Sunday afternoon on Championship Sunday, and it's these huge galleries of patrons, which Homecoming Queen and I both noticed. We were looking at it yesterday. There weren't nearly as many people that hung around the 18th fairway and green the year that we were there when Patrick Reed was coming up and winning. Not nearly as big a crowd as it was for Scheffler. But what they do, and of course they're incorporating drone shots, and you got everything that's just golden hour backlit. It's the music, it's the voice of Jim Nantz, and he never misses. He always says just the right amount of words, few, but just the right words, impactful, and there's just nothing like it in terms of live production of sports. Not that there should be, because golf's a different kind of thing, right? It's slow. It kind of meanders along. It's not like a basketball game or a football game. It's high, fast-paced intensity and that sort of thing. I know it's different, but I'm watching it yesterday, and I've watched it over the years. You have too, paid attention. But what they do with that production live on television, it is like watching a movie happen, and they're producing it live right in front of you. They didn't take a year and a half to produce this thing. Now, I know they work on it behind the scenes, but still. And, okay, on that note, two things. Did you see the moment that the final group came through 16, went over to 17, and for the last time to end his 40-year career broadcasting the Masters, Vern Lundquist said, "That's it. Let's send it over to 17." And he was done. This is his last one. And they came back later, and Jim Nantz gave him a little shout-out, and he kind of got choked up as he was thanking him on the air. Well, first of all, if you're watching that, you didn't get a little choked up as well. You weren't really paying attention. Secondly, it was really cool. Now, Scottie Scheffler is a believer in God. He professes his belief in Jesus. He talks about it openly. Now, he's not knocking on your door, but when he gets a question, he answers it, honestly. You had the parallel storylines to him winning this thing of the fact that his wife could go into labor at any second. And he had said, yeah, look, even if I'm walking up 18 and they say she's going into labor, then I'm out of here. Which, to me, I like it. Okay, there you go. Priorities. But what about this one? This is after he's won. He's been given the green jacket. He's having his final media Q&A with the, in the media area there at Augusta National last night before getting on a plane to go back to Texas to be with his wife. And here's an answer to his question about his competitiveness, that it's obvious. Anybody that is a champion to that level in any sport, whether you can see it on their face and in their actions or not, trust me, they have a competitiveness about them, a wanting to win about them that is hard for most of us to really even grasp. Like one of the things that was cool about Tiger is you could almost see it. Every step he took looked like a guy that wants to win, right? Other people don't show it as much, and I don't think Scheffler shows it as much. But in regards to how bad he wants to win versus where his real priority is, listen to what Scottie Scheffler said.
Sitting around with my buddies this morning, I was a bit overwhelmed because I told them, I was like, I wish that I didn't want to win as badly as I did, or as badly as I do. I think it would make the mornings easier, but I love winning. I hate losing. I really do. And when you're here in the biggest moments, when I'm sitting there with the lead on Sunday, I really, really want to win badly. And my buddies told me this morning, my victory was secure on the cross, and that's a pretty special feeling. To know that I'm secure for forever, and it doesn't matter, whether or not I win this tournament or if I lose this tournament. My identity is secure for forever.
Now think about that. here's a guy who, first of all, he's got people around him, his buddies, okay, who they can minister to him the same way he can minister to them. And they're obviously in the Word and studying the Bible together. Okay, and then believing it. And here he is, the morning of, he's going to go out here and play the final round of the 2024 Masters. He's a leader going into the final round. He's going to be in the final group. He's already won it once. It is like the top 0.001% of the upper echelon of golf in the history of the world that has ever put on a green jacket, let alone two of them. And he's one round of golf away from it and came in picked to win it. He's the best golfer in the world and itching to get out there. And you heard him say it. I almost wish I didn't want to win as bad as I do. In other words, his desire to win and his hate for losing overcomes him. Anybody who's ever been a competitor at a high level of any sport will sort of understand that. I'm still not sure, even as competitive as I am or used to be, that I really understand what a champion like him is like from a competitiveness standpoint. And he says, I'm sitting here in the morning, and my buddies say to me, well, your identity is already secure, whether you win this golf tournament or not. Your identity is in the cross. There it is, right there, whether you win or not. Now, keep in mind, he's sitting there proclaiming this and saying this as he wears a green jacket. He just won for the second time. Buddy, you talk about perspective. I can appreciate that. Whether you win it or not. And just said, sometimes I almost hate how bad I want to win. Hey, raise your hand if you've been there. And then to be able to win anything, like whatever, like the sport that you love the most, for me, it was football. For him, it's golf. For you, it might be basketball, something else. Think about being the best in the world at it. And you still want to win so bad, you cannot see straight. And the perspective before the final round to go, whether I win or lose, this does not identify. This is not what my identity is wrapped up in. My identity is on the cross, and that's where it's secure. Not in whether I win golf tournaments or not. Not in whether I win a football game or not. How cool is that? All right. Lots of okay. Before we hit headlines, let me go back to Prince. Philip! He says, who would win a Masters All-Star golf match? And what he meant was, would it be if you had baseball players, football players, basketball players, from those three, the three bigs, football, baseball, basketball. If you were to take an all-star group, who'd win a golf match? Baseball players better at golf, football players better at golf, I wouldn't think. But you got guys like Romo, basketball. There's no question, Philip. This is the way I would answer that. And then we'll go to headlines. And then I'll come to your texts. This is the way I would answer that. Overall athletes, we're talking about explosiveness, strength, flexibility, run fast, jump the highest. It's without question, it's basketball players. More than football, more than baseball. So overall, basketball players are best athletes. But with golf, I'm going to go with baseball. You could get a group of all-star, baseball players that would hands down be the best golf team. And you're talking about guys like John Smoltz and others. That would be my answer on that one. It's a great question, though. Oh, and Philip said regarding Vern, he wept like a baby. I'm telling you, man, I did too. Rewound it, watched it again. When he tried to say, it's been my privilege, and he got choked up, ooh, I lost it. The real tears on that one. All right. Here we go. Top of the hour on this Reaction Monday. As you know, we got a lot of baseball and other things to get into. So let's hit headlines, and then we'll move forward from there. Headlines every day on the show, brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and 𝐌𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢. What? The Mortgage Man. Find him online at mortgagemanms.com.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world.
Good evening and welcome to Eyewitness News.
Here's what's making news.
Scheffler closed with a 68. Do you realize that that's the first time that Scottie Scheffler broke 70 in the final round of a Masters, including the one that he won a few years ago? Shot a 68 yesterday, wins his second green jacket in the 88th Masters. What is it like? He's won 3 out of the last 4 tournaments that he played. He's unbelievably dialed in right now. All right, SEC baseball over the weekend. Ole Miss takes 2 out of 3 from Mississippi State and Oxford. I told you they played a tougher schedule, and they absolutely just hammered State yesterday. Didn't get to see any of the ball game, but I did see the score, and that's really all you had to see for that one. Elsewhere, a huge series win for Alabama, taking 2 out of 3 from red-hot Arkansas. First series loss of the year for Arkansas and Alabama. That's a loud statement at home in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Elsewhere, South Carolina took 2 out of 3 from Florida. That was on the road at Gainesville. Kentucky went into Auburn and swept them. A sweep on the road at Auburn. Kentucky, to this point, hands down the most dominant team in the SEC. I mean, they and Arkansas both have been really good, but Kentucky's not just beating people. They are just, they're embarrassing people. Georgia wins 2 out of 3 at home versus Missouri this weekend. A&M looked outstanding this weekend at home, a sweep of Vandy in College Station. And LSU on the road at Tennessee, and the Vols get the sweep. So you had 3 sweeps in SEC play this weekend in baseball. So what do the standings look like coming out of the weekend? Here we are mid-April, but this is what it looks like right now. You still have East and West divisions in baseball. In the West, Arkansas is still on top, but after losing the series to Alabama, they now have just a 1-game lead over Texas A&M. So Arkansas sitting there at 12-3, Texas A&M sitting there at 11-4. 1 game back. In third place in the West, after losing the series in Oxford, Mississippi State sitting there, but now State is a good, if I'm looking at this right, they're in third in the West, but they're 4 games back of Texas A&M in second. So right now, Arkansas and A&M are really separating in the West Division. State's in third, but they're at 7-8, a game below 500 in the SEC. Now only 1 game ahead of Alabama, who's at 6-9 after their series win over Arkansas. And State is only 2 games in front in the West standings of Ole Miss, who just beat them 2 out of 3 in Oxford this weekend. Ole Miss at 5-10. And then a distant couple of games below Ole Miss is LSU at 3-12. Auburn all the way at the bottom there, at the bottom of the SEC at 2-13 after getting swept by Kentucky this weekend. And in the East, the Wildcats, 14-1. Man, what about the job that Nick Mingione is doing at Kentucky right now? They are 14-1, lead the league, of course, lead the East. They have a 4-game lead over Tennessee. Tennessee swept LSU this weekend and is still 4 games behind Kentucky right now at 10-5. Tennessee in second place in the East. In third is South Carolina at 8-7, tied with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt dropping down there, dropping 3 games because of getting swept on the road at A&M this weekend. Then at the bottom of the East, you got Florida and Georgia, who are both 7-8. And then at the bottom of the East is Missouri, who's 5-10. And so that's what your SEC looks like. Those are your headlines, brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and 𝐌𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢. Find them online at mortgagemanms.com. Bank of England Mortgage and 𝐌𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢. They got locations in Ridgeland, now in Starkville, Oxford, and Tupelo as well. And check him out online. So that's the news. We're going to get into it. A huge series win for Ole Miss over Mississippi State. And here are some of the things that jump out. Yes, the immediate in front of you of this season and what it does for Ole Miss, it gives them a lot to play for, obviously. It's still very early, but it gives them a lot to play for. It gives them some confidence. Sometimes you'll see a team like Ole Miss. They've done it before. The year they won the national championship, they were awful through the first half of the SEC season, right? And then got hot and played their best at the right moment. Squeaked into the tournament, then played their best in the postseason all the way through to the title. It's a really cool thing, what you can do in baseball. But it has the look of the kind of series that could really turn things around for them. And, as you watch them pitch, you look at a couple of guys they bring out of the pen. A couple of those they brought out of the pen back on Saturday night. The kid, what's his name, Mallets? He's got great stuff. And it's really, you look at it, it's just really about consistently locating it, maybe a confidence thing. You look at 37 who comes out of the pen for them. He's got great stuff. It's really just about the consistency of hitting your spots and locating. And honestly, Ole Miss, when you watched them on Friday, they just had the look of a team that didn't have a lot of confidence. And you think about getting beat up by Kentucky, getting beat up by Arkansas, and some of these, they had the look of a team that did not have a lot of confidence. But then turn it around, what did they look like yesterday? What did they look like on Saturday night? They started to get some confidence, and that can make all the difference for a team like them. But what about State? My thoughts on them coming up. Stick around.
Now's the time to get a great deal on proven Kubota.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes bran, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transgrand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the
On the conversation and tell him what you think. Right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
You know, there's a way to carry yourself when you win, and there's a way to carry yourself when you lose. And the bat flip culture, the stomp on home plate, the taunt the other dugout environment that we have going on at all levels of baseball right now ain't it. Okay, let's put that out there, and then I'm coming to you. Now, I will say, Tim, I'll come in order. Jason and Flagstaff, I got your text first about the baseball game, and you've had some that follow up, and I'll go there, and then coming through, we got Steven and Nick and Grumpy and Grizz and Brad and Resdog and everybody. We got to talk state baseball. You know, all the tangible stuff that we talked about last week, it's baseball. It is. It's like Missouri being awful and then sweeping Florida and then being halfway competitive at Georgia. Sometimes you look at who they played. The fact that coming into this weekend, only 3 games separated State and Ole Miss altogether. Overall and in the SEC, only 3 games were the difference between the two teams, even though we had a different opinion of State than we did Ole Miss. Well, Ole Miss had played Kentucky. Kentucky's beaten the tar out of everybody they played. Ole Miss had played Arkansas. Up until this weekend, Arkansas had beaten the tar out of everybody they played. Probably played a tougher schedule than State had, and the RPI probably backs that up. I think it does. Okay, so not surprised that, it's baseball. Not surprised that you can go in there to Ole Miss and they can be good and desperate on a losing streak and figure out a way to fight, scratch, and claw and win a series at home. And they turn that sort of the history on the thing around and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I get all of that. And all of that's on the table. But the thing that is tough, okay, as a State fan, which I've got my hand up, I'm wearing a Mississippi State pullover right now that I got from the golf course. Okay, as a State fan, the thing that is tough, it's tough enough to lose some. Okay, but the thing that I really don't like is for somebody to point a finger at my team or one of my players and say, y'all look like Tennessee from 2 years ago. Here's my opinion on that. Of all the things that Mississippi State baseball as a team or a player here there could represent or could resemble, of all the things Mississippi State baseball could resemble, the last thing they ought to resemble in how they carry themselves is Tennessee baseball from 2 years ago. That'll be the last thing. And I've never met, Johnny Long, the catcher. I've never met him face to face, shook his hand, anything. I'm only like you. I've watched him play. He's a good ball player. He is. I know he transferred in. at a position where State had an injury. They're glad to have his ability and all that kind of stuff. But we've seen now a couple of times in recent history, within a few weeks, where his behavior is going to cost you. And not only is it going to cost you if it continues, it has cost you. Now, I know that, teammates love him. You love to have a guy that, can be a pick-me-up and is a good ball player. And he is a good one. But all I'm saying is that bat flip the other night on Saturday night, it's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. I don't care. Look, I don't care what your opinion of me is. It's a football guy. He talks more about he knows more about fishing than he does baseball. I don't care what your opinion of me is. Whether I'm an old guy who still looks at it through a lens from 20 years ago. I don't care about all that, because the truth is the truth. And listen, here is the truth. That is Bush League. I don't care if a guy for the Atlanta Braves does it. It's Bush League. Oh, well, we need more people to be more excited about baseball. Okay, well, put the games on TV then. Start with that. Don't start with bat flips. Okay, and even bat flips. Excessive ones is what we're talking about. Don't start with showing up the other team. Play the game, celebrate with your guys. Stop showing up the other team, especially when the game isn't over and then you turn around and lose. What is that? You know what it is? It's a loser mentality. It's a loser way to go about things. That goes for your Little League team, your American Legion team, your high school team, or your college team, or your pro team. You've got to cut that stuff out. That has no place. And you know what? Here's another thing. You could argue it cost you the game. I don't know. You still got to go out and make pitches and stuff. I could really argue that the extracurricular stuff from him in the Georgia game, game 2, did cost him the game. So emotion can be good when you use it to your advantage and when you're confident, but you've got to know where to direct it and when to direct it. And frankly, again, you hit a home run, you carry the bat all the way down the baseline, toss it up in the air, stomp on home plate. Great. You got a highlight. Wonderful. Guess what? You still got pitches to throw. You still got innings to play. And guess what? If you're going to do that, you can't go out there and lose. And who is it? Whose job is it to get a hold of that stuff? I guess all I'm saying is, I get it. It's easy to stand here and complain about it, okay, and point it out after you lost because you're frustrated and so is everybody else. You might say it's easy to get people to agree with you. Well, I don't care win or lose. I'm going to go back to my original statement, then I'm coming to your text. There's a way to carry yourself when you win. There's a way to carry yourself when you lose. And that right there, that bat flip on Saturday night is neither of those. Stephen, all right, let me go Jason first, as I said. Jason was the first to text the show on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage. I am on jalapeno and cheddar. Hallelujah. It's my favorite. Jason said, I'm disgusted with Sunday. He's talking about yesterday's game. He said, losing is one thing, but never getting off the bus for a rivalry game and a series on the line is inexcusable. And then he said, because I said, all I had to do was, I didn't see the game on Sunday. He said, all you had to do is see the score. He said, man, that's not right. He said, the score of Sunday's game isn't all you need to know. He said, it wasn't like Ole Miss hit a bunch of homers or something. It was complete impotence from start to finish for State in all aspects of the game. He said, guys running into each other on defense, dropping routine ground balls, striking out, looking at obvious two-strike situations. Just an awful display, so much so that Jim and Jay were talking about it very early. See, I wish I had heard that. And then on the bat flip and kind of how you behave, I like getting fired up and high-fiving and all, but do it to your own players and your own dugout and celebrate. Stay away from taunting the other guys, okay? And by all means, you hit a home run, you're rounding the bases, the bat flipping, the stomping on the plate. The last thing you want to be compared to are the Tennessee Volunteers from 2 years ago. And if that's happening, then let that be an indication that you're not doing it right. Jason said amen to that. He said Jay Powell said a mouthful about Long's antics the other night when it looked like he had been ejected. Talking about the Georgia series, Jason, or something else? Okay, Steven texted the show, and he said, does anyone know why Mississippi State batted a guy hitting 111 and then a guy hitting 0 at the DH spot in the batting order Saturday night? Now, I noticed that too, right? Two newcomers. He said, it seems like you'd want experience on the road against an SEC opponent in a hostile environment. He said the guy hitting 111 was a lefty. We matched up against a left-handed pitcher. And I remember that. You know, it didn't change. He had already been in the lineup. It didn't change it. He said in a one-run game that could have made the difference, if you're trying to give young guys experience, let's do that tomorrow night. Nick texts the show. He's sending a shout-out to our man, Philip Prince. He said, Prince, I'll be at Philly Country Club in 30 minutes, 9-hole match for a chickenless pot pie. It's an inside joke. For the record, the pot pies do have chicken in them at Prince's place. Now, Grizz talking about Kentucky baseball. He said, we're going to see what Kentucky's about in the next few weeks. They've been beating the bottom of the conference. They have the Vols, South Carolina, and the Hogs up next few weeks. They have. You're right. So Auburn, Ole Miss, who else? You know, did they play Missouri? I'm not sure. Alabama, Alabama looked good this weekend. A series win over Arkansas, so it can ebb and flow. But you're right. It'll get tougher on them. Brad texts the show, and he says, question. And then I've never thought of this, Brad. Brad said, question, why do we call it shoot in golf when you hit the ball in baseball? You know, what'd you shoot? Maybe that's because the ball is just sitting there in golf, huh? MSU 1980 texted the show, and he said, Matt, I totally agree with you about bad conduct in the Mississippi State baseball game of the catcher. And he says Mississippi State baseball is better than that. Well, and that's the deal, y'all. Listen, here's another statement, and I just think it's reality. If college players these days are going to get paid like the big boys, like the pros, you got to take everything else that comes along with it like the pros, and sometimes that's extra criticism. And when you wear the uniform that we all went to school there, we like it, you got to act better. Stick around.
Everyone has a Jenna in their life.
Hey!
A deal-making dynamo.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
You know me. Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are they going to do?
Everything's under control. Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian.
The Zone 105.9.
Back with you. Steve commented on Facebook, and he's right about that. You know, conceivably and theoretically right. Steve said on Facebook on the live stream, State was one error away from winning Saturday's game and the series. And you're right. Well, how many times was it? Was it 3, Steve? Of course, okay, they had, in regulation there, from about the 6th or 7th inning on, they had a lead in the late innings and lost that one. But at least two different times during the extra innings, they gave themselves leads in the top of the inning and could not hold it in the bottom. So you talk about pitching and throwing strikes and getting weak contact as opposed to hard contact and stuff. But a team that again has been so good in the field and so consistent defensively. And yeah, it's a kick ball, booted ball here or there that really has cost you a couple of ball games in the clutch. And I think, Steve, that's really what you start to dial into with State. And I still think it could be an experience thing in some cases. I don't know. I mean, like everybody's got transfers and new faces. And State's not the only one. But when you look at the series at Florida, you look at the Saturday game at home against Georgia, you look at the extra innings Saturday game now against Ole Miss, all these one-run losses in games where they had a lead. So, yeah, it comes down to your bullpen some. I mean, there's no Landon Sims walking out of that bullpen. Okay, we get that. But then there's also something extra about closing out and the toughness in the clutch. When the game has peaked, I mean, this whole thing has peaked to the moment that's going to determine this, and whatever that extra little bit is to get over that hump and win that game. All these one-run losses for State starting to pile up. And if you're a State fan, what your hope is that it's a learning experience, and these experiences do kind of toughen you up so that you can somehow play yourself into the postseason, wherever, however, and then those things come back to benefit you, right? You win some of those close one-run games in the clutch in the postseason when it really matters. I mean, if you're a State fan, that's what you hope, but it is right there. But again, win or lose, everybody on the team, that means everybody with no exceptions. So how many is it? 36 guys, whatever it is. Let's just say it's 36. Well, all 36, all of them, with no exceptions, have to understand there is a way we go about doing things here. Win or lose, here's how we go about it. If you're a coach, right, and you get fired, you walk away going, well, you know what? We didn't win. They fired me. Okay. But we did things the way we're supposed to do it. All right. Res Dog text the show. Country Pleasing text line. I know where Res Dog stands on it. He's already told me that before. He said, time for Lemonis to go. We have no answers when things get tough. He's 25-50 in SEC play the last 3 years. Res Dog says it's complete garbage. Unnamed texter said regarding the catcher, Johnny. What's his last name? I'm drawing a complete blank. But anyway, great home run, he says, but keep it classy, San Diego. Then I guarantee you, he says, Lemonis got all up in his hind end in the top of the 12th. And the kid comes out in the bottom of the 12th. He couldn't catch an 85-mile-per-hour fastball down Broadway. Long, Johnny Long is his name. Grumpy texts the show. Grumpy says, great commentary on Scotty, talking about Scotty Scheffler. If you didn't hear that comment in the post-Masters press conference from Scotty Scheffler, I'm going to play that for you coming up. Again, he said, great commentary on Scotty. Go Jesus. Grumpy has much to say. Grumpy is very happy for Mason Nichols. Great outing. Even though Grumpy is a Bulldog, Mason is the son of a longtime client of his. And then he said, David Mershon needs to step in and counsel Johnny Long. Grumpy loves Johnny's spirit, but don't hurt the team. I think there's something to that, Grumpy. And myself, my whole life, especially when I was young and competing and stuff, I had a hot temper and that sort of thing. But when I look back on it now, and it's like when you get old, you finally can mature a little bit and maybe look back and see some of this stuff. But I look back at it for me, and you know what? It's basically true every time. When I lost my cool or lost my temper and let it affect me and us in a negative way, it's because I was focused on me. And the times, particularly in my career as a football player at Mississippi State, when I was putting the team first and when I had a team outlook and a team perspective, I almost had no times where I would lose my cool or lose my temper. And it's because the team was the most important thing and greater than anything else. And the times in different situations where I might lose my cool or lose my temper, or get a tech or whatever, it's because I was really just worrying about me and not worried about the team. So I think a lot of it does come down to you got to put the team first. You want to showboat? Have your, as Nacho Libre says, have your glory moment in the hot sun. You want to do that? Well, stop thinking about yourself. Win the game. Rebel Tiger Dog. He texts the show. RTD says, Matt, I 100% agree with you about the Johnny bat flip. He says, there's a cure for that, right? And he says, do it against a pitcher, team, or coach that's not afraid to take care of that with a baseball. He said, I hated that Tennessee team from 2 years ago. And then he says the action is also on Lemonis, all of it. Well, and in an era where, all your players are you know, a bunch of your players getting paid and that kind of thing. How much coaching can you actually do? Maybe that's no excuse. But I will never, I'm with you, RTD, I will never get away from that. Use Tennessee from 2 years ago, the 2022 Tennessee Volunteers baseball team, as the poster child and example of how not to carry yourself. And as talented and as great as they were on the field, athletically and everything else, you knew the game of baseball will eventually punish that. It always has and it always will, and I can't explain it, but it's the truth. And now, here's where I really want to go with this. Listen to this. We got 2 minutes. We're going to hammer it. NWR Mike, that's, I guess, Northwest Rankin. So Mike texts the show and says, I agree, Matt. I see it in 7A high school baseball and don't understand why umpires and coaches allow it. They may not allow the bat flip, but why, when a player hits a double, does he need to do some kind of stupid dance on second base? Act like you should have hit a double, he says, Mike says. You can't get excited without looking foolish. Also, all baseball leagues should change the rule to whatever you wear to the plate, you have to run with it. He says, I get tired of stopping the game for someone to run over and take off 16 different pads, etc., and then they'll put on stupid-looking mitts. Now, Mike, we are bordering on get off my lawn territory here, me and you both, and I'm not saying I disagree with you. My deal is this, though. Everybody's let it go. You know, show me that you care, right? If you're a rules maker, if you're a rules enforcer, show me that you care. You want to stop something, you say you do, you say you don't like it, well, prove it. Have the you-know-whats to stand in there and go, nope, not in this ballpark. Nope, not in this program. Well, coach, he's a good player. You might run him off if you don't let him express it. Okay, go somewhere else and express yourself. We may lose them all, but we're going to lose them in doing it a certain way here. My hope is that maybe you'll have it a turnaround. And there is no doubt that a lot of this crap trickles down from Major League Baseball. You see it at that level, you think it's cool to do it here. And then you see it at Tennessee, and you think it's cool to do it in high school. And then you see it in high school, you know it's cool to do it in travel ball. You can do it, cool to do it in travel ball, it's cool to do it in T-ball. You know what? It ain't cool. And it ain't the kid's fault. It's daddy and coach. It's your fault. So if you're a daddy and a coach or a coach and you have promoted it, you can't text me and be mad about it because you're part of the problem. If you think it is good for the game, but more importantly, you think it's good for the player and the kid, you are wrong. And you're the one that's going to deal with the issues it causes. It's just a friendly warning. And again, if it trickles down from Major League Baseball, that's the last people you ought to be impersonating. They want to grow the game and get people interested. Put it to games where you can watch them on TV. Why don't you start there? Bat flips and antics aren't going to do it. Hour 2 coming up. I can't wait. We get to talk to Randy Watkins and recap the Masters. That's all coming up in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
Especially early on, so don't wait for symptoms to get tested. Screening helps prevent the disease by finding precancerous polyps so they can be removed. Remove the polyp, prevent the cancer. Screening also helps find colorectal cancer early when treatment works best. You might be thinking, oh no, not that test. But here's the thing. You have options. There's more than one screening test. Talk to your doctor to find the one that's right for you. No more excuses. If you're over 50, get tested, because colorectal cancer screening really does save lives. A message from HHS and CDC's Screen for Life campaign. Wonder if you should get tested for colorectal cancer? Well, it's the second leading cancer killer in the U.S., and screening helps prevent it. So if you're 50 or older, it's time. Even if it doesn't run in your family, most often, colorectal cancer occurs in people with no family history. And it doesn't always cause symptoms, especially early on, so don't wait for symptoms to get tested. Screening helps prevent the disease by finding precancerous polyps so they can be removed. Remove the polyp, prevent the cancer. Screening also helps find colorectal cancer early when treatment works best. You might be thinking, oh no, not that test. But here's the thing. You have options. There's more than one screening test. Talk to your doctor to find the one that's right for you. No more excuses. If you're over 50, get tested, because colorectal cancer screening really does save lives. A message from HHS and CDC's Screen for Life campaign.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
We are good to go.
With more of the Matt Wyatt Show. Coming to you direct and live at the Zone 105.9 and worldwide.
Now, here we go.
At the Zone 105.9.com.
Back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team. All right, so enough hollering and screaming. Enough of that. Hey, and just for reference here, earlier when my man Prince over here on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, said if you were to take former, or if you were to take, not former, just baseball players, football players, or basketball players, put together the best, group of golfers, who would win? From what sport? I chose baseball, and he says I'm wrong that Steph Curry would beat them all. I don't know now. If we're talking about individuals, okay, round of golf, stroke play, Steph Curry, Tony Romo, and John Smoltz. I got to know there's a big age difference there, though, right? But still, I'm not so sure. I thought we were talking about a group. He thinks Curry would win the whole thing. Maybe. I don't know, though. I think Romo might. I think we need to find out for sure. Just let them play it out. Don't you, Prince? I think it'd be a great idea. Feel free to get on in here. You can comment the same way. Drop a comment on the live stream if you're on YouTube, Facebook, or X. You can also call me on the Divini Equipment phone line. The number to call, 897-1059. That's a 601 number. Divini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. And you got the text line, the Country Pleasin' text line. Country Pleasin' sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It is the best sausage, hands down. I took a screenshot the other night on Saturday night, too, because when Hunter Hines hit that go-ahead home run late in the game, he really crushed it, I guess, to break the tie. When he hit that home run, right beside him on the wall there where the sponsors, they show the sponsors on the backstop behind home plate at Swayze. You can see the big Country Pleasin' logo, big red hog back there. I had to take a picture of that. Lead didn't last long, though, did it? That's a big, big, big series win for Ole Miss. If they are able to turn their season around, get into the postseason, that sort of deal, then they're going to look back at that series for sure. For sure. No question. Because I'm just saying they had the look of a team. I have not been able to watch them play much, to be honest with you. Like most of the college baseball games I've watched this year are state games. And I've seen Ole Miss scores, but I hadn't seen them play much. You're just watching them on Friday in that 8-0 shutout, and they just kind of had the look of a team that just didn't have any confidence. At the plate they didn't have much, and they've got some arms. They really do. I don't know, how many, but they've got some arms now. But they just didn't look like they had much confidence. And you pour some confidence onto them, maybe they win some games, especially when you don't play in other teams other than Kentucky and Arkansas. All right. And if everything goes according to plan here in just a minute, we're going to talk some golf with Randy Watkins. Y'all know who he is. Mississippi Sports Hall of Famer. Incredible professional golf career. And we'll do a little Masters recap with him. But speaking of the Masters, White Denzel, he texted me on the Country Pleasin' text line, and he said, cue the music. I love it when our listeners begin to think of little production elements to go along with their thoughts. Masters thoughts from Denzel. He says, if the young golfers on tour ever thought what it's like to face prime Tiger, they are getting a glimpse with how Scotty is playing right now. He said, DeChambeau designing and printing his own 3D clubs, then getting them approved by the USGA on Tuesday at the Masters, then having that kind of showing at the Masters is insane. It really is probably an underrated story from this year's event. And had he won, it'd be a huge story. And then finally from White Denzel on the text line, he said Tommy Fleetwood didn't have his caddy during the Masters because he's still sick. Tommy didn't waver, grabs an Augusta National caddy and finishes T3. So good, yeah. That was really cool. Well, let's just keep it right there. How's that music make you feel? Scheffler is so easy to pull for, as are some of the others, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And the job that CBS does in broadcasting that event, it is just like, it's like watching a movie that they're producing live right in front of your eyes. Guy knows a lot more about it than I do. A little Masters recap with one of Mississippi's greatest, Randy Watkins, on your radio right now on the Davini Equipment phone line. Randy, welcome to the show. I really do appreciate some time. And what did you think about the weekend and about Scotty Scheffler?
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you having me on. Of course, it's my favorite week of the year, and of course, Scotty made it even better with the way he played.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you say about the way that guy plays golf? I made the analogy that Scotty is the golf equivalent to Eli Manning. Pressure doesn't bother him.
Mm-hmm.
Eli was much the same. It just didn't really rattle that guy.
Right.
Watching him navigate that golf course and play checkers for a while, and then he would attack, and then he would go back to playing checkers.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing to do it under that pressure, and then to be able to do it, to have the skill to do it.
Right.
But to have the mindset and the heart to do it, it's just a beautiful thing to watch. I'm sure I'm glad that golf has him as our champion. I can tell you that.
Randy, if you were to take one shot, for example, and just kind of look at it, that approach that he hit, I believe it was number 9, where he used the bank and he, brings it back down to the hole. So you're talking about like picking and choosing when to attack. A guy like him, are he and his caddy totally playing off of where his drive is and where he is in the fairway, or is that sort of a predetermined, hey, here's a hole location, we're going after it?
No, it was purely based on where he was in the fairway and the yardage that he had in. That he was comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think I heard him say that it was like 101 yards to the hole, but we were going to play it to 110.
Yes, yeah.
Because there's a backstop back there, and then, of course, he used the backstop so well. But that was purely based on where he hit his tee shot. And I know they had that plan if the tee shot was that good that they would go after that.
Right.
But not to make the mistake short. You couldn't do. Greg Norman did it many years ago, had the lead there and sucked it all the way back to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Ultimately lost the tournament. And you can lose it right there, and Colin Morikawa pretty much gave it, that was his last chance.
Mm-hmm.
When he made double by hitting the bunker on the left, which you can't do.
Yeah, right.
So he got greedy, and he admitted it. He got greedy on 9, and from a terrible position, really. It was a bad decision, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Randy Watkins on your radio right now, Mississippi Sports Hall of Famer, unbelievable golfer in his career. Randy, you played in the 1984 U.S. Open, and you were just a young guy. And we look at a guy like Oberg, this big, tall, strong kid coming out of nowhere. He's playing in his first major ever, let alone the Masters, and goes up there and finishes solo second. You had an experience of walking out there for the first time in a major. For him to do that, how do I get a glimpse of just how special that is?
It was cool to watch. I'm a huge fan. I've been hearing about this guy for the last couple of years. When he was at Texas Tech, he was totally dominant. Mm. And I talked to a lot of college players and coaches, and they've been telling me this guy's coming. Mm-hmm. And so I went to see him at the Sanderson Farms this year, and I went to the tournament specifically to see him. I wanted to watch him practice, and I did. And I left with the same feeling that everybody that told me about him was, there's the next superstar. And he's proven it out. And I can tell you that at a similar age, I was 22 years old when I played in the U.S. Open. And when I teed my ball up on the first tee on Thursday, I could see my knees shaking in my pants when I bent over. When I bent over to tee my ball up, I could see my knees shaking in my pants, and so could my caddy. So he backed me off and sort of gave me a little pep talk, and off we go. But I can't tell you how intimidating the setting is when you're that young and inexperienced. And he's got more experience than I did at that age, because he's already played a Ryder Cup. He's already won on the tour. He's already won on the European tour. So he's much more experienced and a better player than I was. But how he handled that, I just don't know how you can do that. That's a different level of confidence or calm or presence. I don't know what that maybe a combination of all the above. That guy's golf game is going to live a long time, and we're going to be hearing about him for decades.
Right. Randy Watkins on your radio right now. Hey, Randy, as a teacher and a coach, what do you think of Scotty Scheffler's footwork?
Well, it's fun to watch. I mean, it's like Fred Astaire out there hitting golf balls. He's got great footwork for a dancer.
Yeah.
But I tell you what the lesson in that is, Matt, and I've said this many times over the last couple of years about that guy. I was wrong about him to start with. I didn't think his swing would hold up long term, and I was completely wrong about that. But what it taught me was that he built his own swing, yet with perfect fundamentals. Like he's got a perfect grip, a perfect setup, a perfect routine, and he never misses a mark. And then he built a swing that's natural to him. So he understands his swing, but they were rooted in perfect fundamentals. And he never misses a step. Like his pre-shot routine is the same no matter if it's a drive or a chip or a putt or a 3-iron. It's the same every single time. And then he just swings Scotty's swing. He knows where that club head is. And the next thing that I think is a teaching moment, the first 6 or 7 holes yesterday, he was not sharp. Like he had birdied the 3rd hole, but he struggled for par on 2. He made bogey at 4. He missed a makeable putt at 5 that he normally makes. And then he bogeyed 7, so he was 1 over for the day through 7 holes and really struggling and let the field back in it. And somehow was able to just stay the course, rely on his fundamentals and his natural feelings, and just play the golf course as he can play it.
Yeah.
And he would play checkers on a hole, then he would attack. He would play checkers, and then he would attack. And he just did it surgically, really, to me. But you've played a lot of high-level sports. You know, when you get off to a bad start, it's hard to right the ship in the moment. And in order to win, you have to be able to do that, because you're going to have, in a round of golf, it takes forever, you're going to have a lull in there somewhere. It might be 2 holes. It might be in the middle of the round. It might be early. It could be late. You got to be able to survive them. But to resurrect it after 7 holes, and he birdied number 8, 9, and 10. Then he birdied 13 and 16. He made 5 birdies after that, where he was not sharp at all. And I find that remarkably fantastic that a guy can do that. That shows a lot about the guy and about his ability to just remain on course. You know, he had a plan and he never deviated. He just kept doing what he does, and then it worked.
Yeah.
It's a good teaching moment for anybody in anything.
Right. Well, and you know, the mentality, you touched on it. I'm watching him come up 18 and thinking, okay, see, my wife and I, we had the experience a few years ago, Randy, the year that Patrick Reed won back in 2018, we were there for a Saturday, Sunday as patrons. And there was a big crowd for Patrick Reed at 18 on Sunday at the Masters, of course, but nothing like what was around that fairway with Scheffler walking up it yesterday. And I kept waiting, thinking, okay, when's he going to tip his cap? When's he going to acknowledge him? And he just wouldn't do it because he's a little bit like Tiger in that he's locked in on that golf ball and can block all that stuff out. That's amazing to me.
It is amazing to me, and he has referenced it before, and he did this week as well. When he won 2 years ago there, in 22 he won, he 4-putted 18.
Yeah.
And still won by a couple. Mm-hmm. But he said he allowed himself to get out of the moment and think about winning, and basically gave himself the win even though he had not finished the round. And it embarrassed him. Yeah. And he's taken that lesson just like you should and said, I'm not going to do that again. I have to stay in it until it's over. And it really took him till he walked to the back of the green before you saw any emotion. He'd putted out.
Yeah.
He'd hugged Teddy and Scott, his caddy. And it was not until he got to the back of the green that he showed some emotion, that he was really fired up to win it. He just wasn't going to allow himself to step out of the moment. That's an incredible amount of fortitude and mental discipline.
No doubt, no doubt. Randy Watkins, Mississippi Sports Hall of Famer, former PGA Tour player, renowned coach and tournament director, and one of Mississippi's finest on your radio right now. Randy, did you get to watch Tiger play any?
I did. I watched him like I do. I mean, I can't take my eyes off the guy. The Thursday, Friday, when the conditions were literally borderline, they were brutal. I mean, it was so hard. And you could see, and again, it's another teaching lesson for people if they would just pay attention. He drove the ball so well, and he ironed it poorly for him. And with great skill with his short game and great will to go along with it, he got around and won over par when he didn't play well enough to shoot one over par. Yeah. Like, he didn't hit it well. He drove it well, but his irons were not sharp. He wasn't good with his irons. But I've said it at least a dozen times since. Here's Tiger Woods playing. He drove it in 11 of the 14 fairways, both days on Thursday and Friday, in that wind, which is so hard to do. Yeah. But his short game saved him. Yet no one wants to work on their short game.
That's right.
And I don't understand. I don't really understand what they see, what people go, you know what, you're not going to hit it great every day. And when the conditions get tough, you know, it's a real requirement. You either have to hit it great or you got to be able to chip and putt it. Because if you're not hitting it great, you're going to miss a bunch of green.
Right.
Because the wind and those greens got so hard and so fast that it puts a lot of pressure on your short game. But he was so prepared, and I could see that's where he sent his preparation. I guarantee his prep centered around his driver, his wedge, and his putter. I promise you, that's what he worked the hardest on. Mm-hmm. And those three things shined the brightest. Now the weekend got away from him, and I think his body gave out on him some.
Yeah.
And he just got worse. You know, he got more tired and got more uncomfortable, and just hit it poorly. And his short game wasn't near as sharp. But that's such a lesson for folks to say that even he knows he's going to have off days with ball striking. And if you watch him hit it, you go, he's not hitting it bad. Well, he's hitting it bad to him. It just doesn't look like it to us.
Right. Yeah. A lot of those quote unquote bad shots we'd be happy with. Yeah.
I was so glad he made the cut. I actually, going into it, I didn't think that he was going to. I just didn't think he played enough golf. Mm-hmm. And when the conditions got bad, I said, he definitely doesn't have enough golf under his belt this year to play those conditions. And he did for 2 days, though, and I give him a lot of credit for that. That guy's as tough as they come.
Yeah. Well, they said, Randy, every now and then, you know, gusts up to 30 miles per hour, and I thought, well, that's nothing. That's like Lake Caroline just about every week, isn't it?
It's pretty often out there. I mean, that lake pushes that air around out there for sure.
Yeah.
You can get that on any day of the week, any time of the year. But What was your takeaway, Matt? You're a fan, and you're a sports fan, and you're a lover of greatness to watch. What was your takeaway?
My takeaway is, one, I think you look at a guy like Scheffler. I commented on this in the first hour. I think he pulls putting on a mask where his face looks normal, but I think on the inside he wants to win probably worse than I can understand.
Yes.
And that amazes me. And then, like you said, to step out there, whether it's hot, windy, cold, rainy, doesn't matter, to take on any conditions and still play the game at such a high level. It sort of speaks to, sometimes we think about golf, I'm going to go out here when it's nice and still and sunny, but the greatest, it doesn't matter what it's doing, they're going to figure out a way to beat you.
That's correct. They understand this. This is Scotty played late Saturday and Sunday. Last group on Sunday, obviously, and second to last group on Saturday. So they get the worst of the conditions. When you're last, the greens get the hardest, the fastest, the most footprints on them. You have to adjust to the golf course. The golf course is not going to adjust to you. I say that all the time.
That's right.
If the people come in and go, the greens were too slow, and I go, well, when did you recognize that they were slow? Was it 18 when it finally got to you? Well, if it was slow on number one, guess what? They're going to be slow today. So you have to catch on. They're not changing. They don't know you.
That's right. That's right. Randy,
they don't know what you expect. The guy's great.
Yeah. Randy, I really do appreciate it, man. Thanks for some time, and we'll send everybody over to RandyWatkinsGolf.com and to a course near you, and I just appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You're the best, Matt. Thanks a million. I appreciate you taking care of keeping up with the golf.
Yeah.
See you soon, buddy.
See you soon. Thank you. That's Randy Watkins, Mississippi Sports Hall of Famer. Y'all check out everything that's going on there. You can look it up, RandyWatkinsGolf.com. Stick around.
Everyone has a Jenna in their life.
Hey!
A deal-making dynamo who knows how to stretch it.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to family ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are they going to do?
Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes, Stone, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger helper lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger.
1059 and coming to you worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Well, listen. We put forth the idea around here on this show that, a difference of opinion, different tastes. Different people have different tastes and different things, music, sports they like, all that kind of stuff. And that, we don't have to agree. My dad used to say, hey, if you and I agree on everything, then one of us isn't thinking. Well, that's a lot of truth to that. With that, I present to you this comment from Steve on Facebook. Steve says he's not crazy about Jim Nantz. He just ain't crazy about it. And Steve, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people worship the ground worship the microphone that Jim Nantz spoke into, but you don't have to. That's right. I will say, as compared to a lot of the others that are out there in sports broadcasting, he's pretty good. This was interesting too. Steve, I'm going to go back to your earlier comment on Facebook. Steve said, I played golf with a head coach in professional hockey who was a really very average player, but he expected to win and was upset when he didn't. And he said, it taught me a lot about expectations. Steve, it is so true. One of the reasons I enjoy playing golf myself, I just enjoy it. I love being outside when I'm out there. Even when I'm not playing, I don't have time to go play 18. I go hit balls for an hour. Practice, break a sweat. I love being outside, but you know what? As I have learned, when I step out of the car and I throw that bag over my shoulder and those clubs start clanking around, I go ahead right then and there and lower my expectations. And that's why I've learned to enjoy it. Now, Grumpy, regarding broadcasting, Grumpy said, Matt, what are your thoughts on Tony Romo at 16 replacing Vern Lundquist? Whew, I don't know about that now. I don't know about that. Here, what about Mike Tirico? See, Tirico anchors the Masters coverage for ESPN. Okay, and then, of course, they're linked up with ABC, so he couldn't very well do that and go to work for CBS, could he? Even though the Masters links up with both of them. I guess he'd have to pick one or the other. Shoot, I don't know. Romo knows golf, but it's hard for me to imagine him doing Masters coverage, really. But I like thinking outside the box right there. Hey, I wanted y'all to hear this. So you just heard the interview with Randy Watkins recapping this year's Masters. That was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed that, okay, and if it's twofold, if you enjoyed that and you are a golf/outdoors nut like me and like Randy, you will enjoy our interview with him recently on the all-new Mississippi Outdoors podcast, which comes from Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. So look it up, Mississippi Outdoors on YouTube, Mississippi Outdoors podcast on wherever you get a podcast, Spotify, iTunes. An entire conversation. We talked deer hunting. He's an avid hunter. Family has been for years. He told a lot of golf stories, including a story like this. Here's a short clip from that interview.
In 1973, Lee Trevino came to Jackson, Mississippi, and he was sponsored by Dr. Pepper, and the Brown family, who still has the Dr. Pepper distributorship here, got him to come to Jackson, Old Brookwood Country Club in South Jackson, and Dr. Pepper at that time sponsored a junior golf tour, and I was one of about 20 of us that made an all-star team, and the clinic was for the all-star at Brookwood. And I remember sitting on the ground, Lee Trevino not 6 feet from me, hitting the balls away from me. And right now I can hear the sound of his strike. And I went home and told my dad, I said, I got it. I know what I want. I want to hit a ball like that guy. I want it to sound like that. Now, I would love to have his effervescent personality, but I wanted that strike, that sound, because it was every single shot was whoosh, it was perfect. It was just perfect. And so I set about doing that. Now, 11 years later, a lot of miles in this 11 years, I qualified for the U.S. Open in 1984 at Wingfoot. You may remember Fuzzy Zeller and Greg Norman had the towel waving experience. I was in that U.S. Open for a couple of days. But I got a practice round with Lee Trevino.
Wow.
At just dumb luck. It wasn't organized. He didn't have a game. He's on the putting green. My caddy and his caddy were friends. And he said, you got a game? I said, no, I'm just going to go out whenever the tee clears. He said, Lee ain't got a game. Let's go.
Now, that's a clip from our interview with Randy Watkins on the Mississippi Outdoors podcast. And again, you can find it on YouTube, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, places like that, at mdwfp.com. Just go to Mississippi Outdoors there at the website for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and you can kind of hear the rest of that story. It's really interesting stuff with him. Jason in Flagstaff texted the show. He's out in Flagstaff, Arizona. He says, I couldn't care less about golf. But he says, but, there is a but. But I did watch the Uncle Vern video, and it hurts my heart. Missed him a lot more than I thought I would last fall. He's talking about football. And then he quoted the movie, and then he says, quoted Vern in that movie, quote, who the is Happy Gilmore? Well, Jason, you may not give a flip about golf, but you like this too. So speaking of the Mississippi Outdoors podcast, we have a recent episode there with John Ruskey. Jason, you'll like this. John Ruskey. He makes a living guiding people on canoe trips up and down the Mississippi River. Yeah, we're talking about days and weeks and months at a time. Here's a clip from him telling me the story of how he actually got to Mississippi for the first time years ago anyway.
You went the length of the Mississippi River on a raft. On a raft, a 12 by 24 foot raft that my best friend and I from high school built. And we actually didn't make it. We ended in disaster.
I have to ask you what happened. I got to know more.
Well, we wrecked it on a TVA power line tower that was planted right in the middle of the river. They don't do this anymore. And in 1983, we did not pay attention. We did not think in a mile-wide river that we were going to end up anywhere near one thing, like that. We did. And it wrecked us completely.
And so you spent your first night in Mississippi on Cat Island.
Cat Island, a muddy refugee shivering around a fire. Luckily, we were able to get a fire going. And we started in August of 1982 up in Minnesota. Built a raft and started downstream, and it took us that many months to get down to there.
Now, I'm fascinated by it. If you grew up, reading about Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer stories about rafting on the Mississippi River, it's a real story. I mean, it is fascinating. And Jason, I would tell you too, if you could probably search it. But a couple of years ago, the Mississippi Outdoors television crew did a story with John and his company, Quapaw Canoe Company, and they do a lot of trips that are maybe a little shorter than that one, from like maybe St. Louis on down on the river. But he's a neat guy now, and it's a neat thing. It's almost like I wish I could find a week to just drop everything and go do it, which is hard to do. But that entire interview is there too, and I think you'll enjoy it. Here's a little we'll save that. We'll save that. Music's about to start, so. But check that out. Jason, I know you'll enjoy it if you hadn't seen it already. Hey, and listen, the music is just about to begin, which means we're about to come back and have a little bit of time left, but we're kind of getting short on time here today. And I have yet to intro Beaver and ask him how his weekend went and his thoughts and opinions on all of that. So that's coming up as well. Oh, yeah, thank you. Unnamed texter reminded me that Mike Tirico works for NBC now. That's right. That's right, because he took over for Al Michaels on NBC's Sunday Night Football, didn't he? That's right. Well, then, but here's the thing about it. The reason I said ESPN is because I know he was on Masters coverage for them, and he was on Masters radio. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe he works for all of them. Maybe he could do it. Maybe it will be Tirico. All right. Little bit of time when we come back. We'll check in with Beaver and see what's up. Your thoughts and opinions as well. Comments, texts, phone calls. I'm Matt. Stick around.
It's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do?
Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes. And
the fun continues with Night Court, Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl, gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is life. Everybody wants.
special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember in pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
Gee, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it! Come and
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes. Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the Raisin Bran. Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies. And there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal. Fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack. Untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big rich one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat for the adult in you, great taste for the kid in you. So they're delicious and nutritious.
The whole grain wheat.
You're going to hear about them all and get to talk about it with Matt Wyatt right here, right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Back. Jason and I were discussing here on the text line that he said, I wonder how many people listening have failed, quote unquote, expedition attempts as kids. Talking about making your own rafts. And I said, the idea, as a kid, hey, let's make a raft. Make our own raft. That never really works out too well. It usually doesn't. Thanks for letting me pause to take a sip of hot coffee from High Point Roasters in New Albany, Mississippi. The big 1 pound bag that I tore open this morning and ground some of it up that I'm drinking right now, it's Mocha Java. Doesn't that just sound good? Huh? If you don't like coffee, what's wrong with you? Mike Leach said it didn't taste good. He would drink it for the effect. It doesn't taste good. It might be the only thing I ever disagree with Mike Leach on. It does too. Tastes good. We don't have to agree on everything. Take it for like me and Beaver. We don't agree on everything. Let's talk to Beef. Hey, B.
Hey, Matt Wyatt.
Happy Monday.
You too.
Trying to think of something we disagree on. Did anything come to mind?
Well, we disagree on an enjoyment of golf. We disagree on an enjoyment of college baseball. We disagree on the fact that Elvis was or wasn't a creep. We disagree on a lot. Not a lot, but a good amount.
Okay. Yeah, those are all good. I'm a little taken aback though at how readily available all of those things were at the top of your mind there, Beef.
I was just thinking about things that we've, had disagreements about in the past.
Yeah, I got you. I'll tell you one thing, Beaver, that we agree on, that I think we agree on. You know what it is?
What?
Wrestling is fake. But it doesn't mean it isn't dangerous or fun to watch or entertaining. Maybe I should say that fake is not at all the right word. It's premeditated.
Yeah, of course it's premeditated.
Okay.
Yeah.
There. That's totally fine.
It's all scripted. Yeah, it's scripted. Of course it is. Now, the injuries are absolutely real. It's Danger City.
It is, yes. And they get paid handsomely because of it.
They do.
You never did watch Nacho Libre, did you?
No. What was I thinking about earlier today? Oh, because I was at, my brain, it connects weird dots. So I was at Walmart this morning.
Yeah.
And the Simon and Garfunkel tune, The Only Living Boy in New York,
yes,
was on.
Oh.
And I remember you talking about that,
Mm-hmm.
and it leads me to that song is on the Garden State soundtrack.
Right.
And that's my favorite movie, and your favorite movie is Nacho Libre, and we both said we were going to watch each of them, and neither of us have, and likely ever will fulfill that commitment we made to each other.
It's so true. The reason I'm laughing is I had not thought of that. I'm like, oh, I still hadn't watched it. And I intend to. That's why it's really embarrassing for me, Bieber, is I actually do intend to watch that movie. And it just never happens. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. So I take it, therefore, you didn't watch a ton of the Masters this weekend.
I did not.
Reddy Teddy just texted the show, Beav, and he goes, if Chris Brooks had asked Beaver what they disagreed on, it'd take a week of shows for Beaver to say all of those things.
Yeah, the first thing is I like to, when I make promises to people, I kind of like to, I try to fulfill them.
You got a major disagreement on that. That's great. That's really good. And therefore, I guess you didn't watch a ton of college baseball this weekend either.
I also did not.
Nothing wrong with that. I didn't watch as much college baseball as I normally do because of the Masters. Masters rolling around once a year. Well, I guess, we are inching closer and closer to the Governor's Cup game, which I believe is later this month. I could look at the schedule. Or is it early May? No, I guess it's early May.
May 1st.
May 1st. Okay. So it is early May. As early in May as you can early. So May 1st for the Governor's Cup. Thank you, Beaver. And State and Ole Miss will square off again. And you know how we do as fans there. Whoever wins the series has a 2-1. If you win the Governor's Cup, that evens it up. Evens the series between the two teams. State's pretty close. Early in the show, I just kind of went into it. I'm being honest, strong opinion on, there's a certain way to kind of go about it. And truthfully, like State's team overall, they're not nearly to the extent of that Tennessee team from 2 years ago, the antics from that team and just sort of the way they carried themselves. But we kind of keyed in on Johnny Long, State's catcher, who I know they're glad to have. He's a good ball player, and team obviously seems to have, a team of guys that like him. But he's kind of got to rein some of that stuff in. He's just got to. And the bat flip the thing the other night, really excessive, especially when, you're on the road, you're top of the inning, and you got a game to go win. The game's not over when that happens. And from that perspective, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they just there's some little things, right? State's right there. They do have some talent, and they give themselves some opportunities, and they do appear to be a better team than they've been the last couple of years for sure. But it's just some little things they're going to have to do better. It's easy to say, but they've kind of positioned themselves. They've got to be better on the road. The experience of losing late leads is really starting to haunt them a little bit on the road. And there's I don't know, it's easy to sit here and throw out these big descriptors without quantifying it, but there's this clutch thing in some of those late inning situations, a little bit of a clutch gene that they got to, kind of figure that out somehow. And again, some teams handle that by the fact that, they just run a Landon Sims out there for the last 6 out of the ball game and it's over. When you had Landon Sims coming out of the pen, close a game for you, you got a lead in the 7th inning, game's over. Everybody pretty much knows it. You can go ahead and crank the bus and get it warm, And if you don't have that, then it's a tricky thing. And so even State, there's Ole Miss. They've kind of been beat up on early in the year. Played 2 really good teams in Arkansas and Kentucky. That looked like a bunch. They just need some confidence. Are they going to be world beaters? I don't know. But they look like they needed some confidence. And I guess an 8-game losing streak could do that to anybody. And then I just appeared to kind of wake up. And winning an extra innings game at home on a night where it's your rival. They hit a couple of extra inning bombs against you and stomped on the plate and bat flipped you and all that kind of stuff, and you wake up and beat them, and all of a sudden we got a little confidence in run rule the next day. And it could, who knows, it could turn it around for them. And State's not done by any stretch, but I think any team, you're going to learn a little bit about yourself as you go along, all these kind of ups and downs, and you can start to pinpoint some stuff that you got to. Winning does just, it's not going to just happen. And just because you got a 4-run lead going into the late innings does not mean you're going to win. There are certain things you've got to do, field ground balls, right? And then the piece of every member of the team. You can't have 2/3 of your team that do everything the right way and carry themselves a right way, a certain way. No, it's got to be everybody. Everybody on the team, every single person. There has to be kind of this culture. There's a commercial that runs here on the station, and it's a guy from I think it's Bank First, and his title is the Chief Culture Officer. Well, who's on your team? Who is your Chief Culture Officer? Because the culture's got to be, we may celebrate big in our dugout. We have a certain way that we carry ourselves, win or lose. And just because you may think you live in an era where it's cool to taunt the other team and bat flip down there at first base and carry it down the line, it ain't cool. It won't ever be. And the game will never reward you for that stuff. So that's the message for today. That wraps it up in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Same place tomorrow, same time. See you then. See ya.
Everyone has a Jenna in their life.